A. This is part 1. But if we're being technical, it's part 3. Yeah. So, last time, Deku, he was crying while hugging Hana. Keep in mind, the nigga's 7'1", and she's like, 5'3". So he's like on his knees, crying into her chest. And then her personality switches. And she says, "Let it all out, you big lug. We missed you." And Deku, he finally stops crying like 15-20 minutes later. At that point, Deku, he gets up and he says, "Alright, come on, since you want me to go back down." And she's like, "Oh yeah, and where'd you get your neat little jacket?" He's like, "Oh, it was my dad's." And she says, "Oh yeah? What did he get it for?" And he says that his dad was in the military before he met Inko. But Deku and Hana, they go down. Well, Deku, he's carrying her on his back. And he had found a used car door and was using it as a freaking not a surfboard, a snowboard. It was just sliding down. And everybody was just like, "What's happening on Mount Fuji?" Nigga was zooming. I'm gonna be honest. But he gets to the bottom. And he says, the city. It's been around, 9 years? Yeah, so I'm gonna change the age real quick. Deku and Hana are both 18. UA is a college. Deku has no high school education or middle school education. So yeah. But he does have Mr. Steal Your Girl education. I'ma be honest. And Hana, she says, "Hey, Izuku, you remember UA?" He's like, "The hero school?" And she's like, "Yep, I go there now." And he's like, "Good for you." And she's like, "Oh, come on, you could at least be a bit more happy." And she like pouts, and their personality switches. And she's like, "You big lug, don't make me beat the crap out of you." And he's like, "You can try 1,000 times, you will never succeed." So take a small victory. And he kisses her on the forehead. And she's like, "You big lug, what was that for?" Tsundere and all. A tsundere. A tomboy. I think I've just created the perfect waifu. What is this? Or wait a second, nah. That title host is hosted to Esdeath. Well, it's a tie between Esdeath and Akano, but we really ain't finna talk about that, you feel me? But anywho, he's like, "But why'd you bring it up?" And she says, "Oh, well, I'm gonna invite you on my class party that we're having later." He's like, alright, fine. Deku. And I already went over his wardrobe, but I'll go over it again. So he's wearing Lubu's clothing right here. And he has Lubu's headpiece. And then he just throws on like a skin tight t-shirt, I guess, or something. Or yeah, a skin tight shirt like Goku Black. But it only goes to like the bicep. So yeah. And then he's wearing black Air Forces. But as he's walking with Hana to where they're going, and sorry, the erasure is amazing. Anywho, I'm erasing my history. Nah, there ain't no bar to go with that. Frick. But anywho, or not, I'm erasing my history. Make all you niggas feel misery. Leave a nigga feeling jittery. Would that work? Or, yeah, that's a bar. Anywho, in dress. Yes. Well, she isn't really in a dress. She's more or less wearing. Let me. Yes, I fixed search. Well, search engine, but anyhow. She's wearing this. And Deku, he says, "You still haven't changed from when we were kids, have you?" She's like, "Nope." "I'm gonna stay the same until the day I die," she says. And then Deku, he flicks her forehead and he says, "That's no way to be thinking, but sure." They arrive and it's like, eh. Let's say it's Tanner's Bar and Grill. And Hana, she was paying for it, and she had gotten like a private room, so for all of class 1A, and they had all like set up in there and stuff. And she explains who they are and stuff like that, and the waitress, she leads her to the room. Hana, she walks in, and she says, "Hey." And then Deku, he walks in behind her, ducking his head, so that way he can go through the doorway. And he says, "Hey." And like, everyone was just like, "Who is this big nigga?" And they say, "Hana, watch out." And she says, "Oh, him? He's a childhood friend of mine." He says, "Hey." And they was just like, "Hey, yo, what's with Giga Nigga 9000 over here?" He says, "I have a name, you know." And they're like, "Well then, what is it?" He says, "Lubu." And they're like, "Lubu isn't like the flying general?" He says, "Yep." And Hana, she throws like a book at him from out of nowhere. And she says, "Say your real name." He's like, "Nah, I'll be keeping Lubu." And she's like, "Whatever, Izuku." And Katsumi, she's like, Izuku. He's like, am I supposed to remember you?" Like, he really didn't remember Katsumi, even though she would beat him up and bully him all the time, even though he really didn't feel any of it. Because this nigga's pain tolerance is through the freaking roof. Like, bruh, in the anime, Lubu got both of his legs shattered, my guy. And that nigga was still walking. And then he decided to hop on his horse. But, anywho. Deku. He was just like, alright. And like, everyone, they ask Katsumi, Katsumi says, "You don't remember me?" He's like, "Exactly, who are you?" Like, "I remember Hana, but I don't remember you in the slightest. Who are you?" Like, Am I supposed to know you? And she's like, it's me, Katsumi. He's like, again, am I supposed to know you? And they were just like, Katsumi, how do you even know him? And she was like, I used to bully him. And then Deku's like, oh, you're the, you were the annoyance. And she's like, the what? The annoyance. The thing that annoyed me the most. And everybody, they say, hey, treat Katsumi with some respect. She's stronger than you. And he was like, good joke. And they're like, huh? You're a male. Males don't have quirks. He's like, and? I'll beat you with that one. Like, this nigga really don't care. He's like, it's funny how they think I care about not having a quirk. It's hilarious. And Shiva, he's just like talking to Deku in his head. And he's just like, yeah, nigga, yeah. And Adam, he's like, I hate to say this, but pummel her face in. At that moment, Katsumi, she launched a barrage of explosions at Deku, and Aizawa and All Might, they invited them too, so they were coming, and they walk in, and they just see Katsumi throwing explosions at this big nigga, and All Might, she's only like 6'8" in this one. But Deku, he's just blocking all of Katsumi's hits. And the ones that do hit, he just tanks them. And like, All Might, she says, are you a villain? He says, no. She just keeps bothering me. As he just looks at Katsumi, who's just like bouncing up in the air, hitting him, even though it's doing nothing. Do I need to play the clip from Baki of Baki trying to hurt Yujiro, but Yujiro just tanking it like a freaking Chad? Like, bruh. Call this man Chad. He ain't never been no simp. That nigga's always been a pimp. He ain't dare to simp. But, Deku. He gets wrapped up by Aizawa, and she's like, enough, stop. He's like, huh? Why am I the one being wrapped up? It doesn't really matter. As he flexes his muscles, and the thing breaks. And everybody, they just look at Deku. And, like, they see that his, cause his shirt's, like, real thick. Like, they could see that his arms have muscle. But, other than that, not really. But, his shirt had gotten serrated, so they could see like all of his muscle and stuff, and they was just like, "Hey yo, did this nigga just flex and break Aizawa's thing?" And Aizawa, she's just like, "That's a hot bot." Like, she just like look at her lips. She like, like, bruh. And Hana, she just says, "He's mine." And then her other personality kicks in. And then she says, "Yeah, the big lug's ours. So back off of him." And she like hugs Deku's leg. And she like, or nah, she like hugs Deku. He's just like, ay, ay, ay. And they were like, "That's one heck of a height difference, though." And he just goes, "Wow, they throwing shots. They throwing shots." But anywho, they order Deku. He pays for him and Hana. And everybody, they're leaving and stuff. And Aizawa, she says, "Hey, Lubu, was it?" And he says, "Yeah." And she says, "You could probably get into UA." He says, "Yeah, but I really don't wanna. I don't really care that much for heroes." And she was like, "That's a first." And Deku, he just walks away with Hana. And Hana, she's just going to her house. Well, her mom's house. But yeah. He says, "Where are we going?" And she says, "To my mom's house." He's like, okay. But Deku, he's going there, and Hana, she yells to her mom, "Hey mom, I'm home." And she's like, "Oh, I'll be right there, sweetie. You can go sit, head down with auntie." And she's like, "Auntie?" And she's like, "Oh my god, picked the wrong night to come here."
What are you doing?
Making YouTube videos.
Let me sleeping. Then you got your big butt out of bed. You big ox.
See what I mean? You're gonna hurt yourself trying to hurt me.
Let me go into this phone. Might be my wife calling from California.
Hey, yo, what? Well, anyhow. So, Deku, she says, "Hey mom, there's someone I want you to meet."
That wasn't my wife in California. It's your grandma.
You do too much.
Huh?
I said you do too much.
Oh, you know what these are for? Let me see. You gotta hold that eyebrow. You're there.
I hardly have eyebrows as it is. Oh, yeah.
How you lay like that?
Like this.
Yeah, how you do that? What's wrong with your damn pillow, man? I can't lay them on like that.
Everything. Everything. I mean, my pillow weighs a solid 30 pounds.
Well, get another pillow. Just put 2-3 of them underneath you.
Nah, because I like this one.
Why? It hurts your neck and back. It's not straight.
But I'm straight.
You keep thinking about that.
What you mean?
You're just weird.
Welcome to life, buddy.
What kind of fan is that?
A fan?
That fan don't blow nothing out.
I mean, well, yeah, it's not a girl.
I got 2 big ones. I got a bigger one in the front room.
Yeah, I've seen that 3x3. And by 3x3, I mean 3 foot by 3 foot people. Well, I gotta get back to making potential money. Anywho.
You know what you're doing. You know you're gonna be doing here in a couple days after this rain goes past.
Nothing.
Yeah, you are. You gotta cut that backyard because Romp's not gonna do it.
Nah, don't ain't nigga.
Since Alvin never comes back in, I'll start yelling at everybody.
Oh yay, and I'm going to get the short end of the stick, aren't I?
They say once all this rain passes by Sunday. Hopefully it's supposed to be scattered rains tomorrow, but we're not supposed to get none of it. But if we do, it'll probably be Sunday before you get a chance out there to cut that.
I'm going to hate this, aren't I? Anywho.
I'll see you later, homie.
See ya. But, yeah, you guys are welcome for the little, comedy section. But, anywho. She says, "Oh, did you get yourself a girlfriend?" And she's like, "Mom, I'm straight." And she's like, "Oh, you always gave the impression of bi." And she's just like, "Whatever, old hag." And Deku, he's just like trying to navigate himself through the door because it's small. It's like a 6 foot tall doorway, and he's just like, and it's like fairly narrow. So like the man has to squat and shimmy, and it's hilarious. And Hana, she's just laughing, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Maneuvering my way through your door is too narrow. That, and on top of that, I'm too tall." And she's like, "Yeah, well, no shit, Sherlock, you're 7'1". And Deku, he's just like, But, they walk into the living room. And Deku, nigga's furious as he sees Inko. What would Inko's like pro hero be? Because I'm going to say she Now that I think about it, it's not too far-fetched. Inko being Ginrei. But her hero suit is essentially Deku's canon. So yeah. What? No. Yes. Sorry. We clicked the wrong button. Anywho. Frick. Sorry. Lump in my throat. Anywho. So. Deku. And he, like, had picked up a new shirt. And he just, sat down. And, like, you could just feel the amount of pressure that was just in the air. And Inko, she pipes up and she says, "So, Hana, who is this young man?" And she says, "Oh, I'm pretty sure he can introduce himself. Isn't that right?" He says, "My name is Lubu." And she's like, "Lubu as in, like, the flying general?" And he's like, "Yes." And so, Deku, he does not plan on telling her his real name whatsoever. Like, at all. None. Nada. Zip. Zilch. But, Hana's mom, she comes back in. And she says, "So, it's nice to meet you." He's like, "Hello, Miss Hana." Or, Miss Yui. Yeah, Miss Yui. And she says, "Oh, Hana, he's quite a gentleman." And she's like, "Mom, you flirt with my boyfriend, I will then hurt you." And Deku, he says, "Don't talk to your mom like that, Hana. It's not polite." And she says, "Fine, Lulu." And then, but Hana's mom, she's just berating Deku with questions. Like, what's his height? He says 7'1". Where does he work? He says unemployed. And she says, "From the looks of the way you're built, you're fairly muscular." He says, "Far from fairly." And she says, "Huh? What do you mean? Do you just have nice chiseled arms, or?" He says, "No. By fairly, I think you mean well." He then takes off his shirt she sees the full 12-pack, and Hana, she's just drooling. And then her other personality, she chimes in and she says, "I can't wait to get a taste of you." And Deku, he just looks at her and he says, "I don't know how to respond to that, so I'm just going to give you a hug and a pat on the back." He proceeds to do so. But, Deku, he's just answering questions while being annoyed with Inko. Eventually, Inko says, "I have to leave," and it's just Deku, Hana, and Hana's mother. He says, and Deku, he says, "Good, now that she's gone." And, Yui, so Hana's mom is just like, "Huh, what do you mean?" He's like, "It's me, Izuku." And she was like, "Huh? Can't be you. Izuku's been dead for 9 years." And she says, "Well, they never found a body, but he's gone." She says, crying. And he says, "Auntie Yui, I'm not dead. I'm just here, annoyed with my mother's presence." Wishing I could kill her, but seeing as it's frowned upon in all 50. In all, isn't there 7 prefectures? In all 7 prefectures. I will just leave her be, no matter how much I hate her. And Yui, she's crying and like hugging Deku. But time skip to the next day. Deku, he wakes up in Hana's room. Hana, she's sleeping on top of him. And he like puts his hands around her waist. Restricting her from getting up. And so, Deku, he gets to have his fun. But, so, she wakes up, and she tries to move, but sees that she can't, because Deku essentially tied her down to him. He says, and she goes, "Let me go, Izu." He says, "No. I won't." "I want to hold you longer." And she's just blushing, and she and her personality switches, and she's like, "You big lug, if you don't get off me right now." You know, being assumed, right? And he says, "What? I know you like it." The man's grabbing my boy. And she's like, "What do you think you're doing?" He's like, "Oh, nothing. Just treating my girlfriend." And she's like, "Good, good, good. Hana EXE has crashed. Look for a better model. Look for a better model." Just kidding, there is no better model. But anywho, so Hana, she asked Deku if he wants to come to the USJ with her in her class. Yada yada yada. Let's go to the USJ. Deku, he's riding on the bus, and they all just ask why he's there. And Hana, she's just like, "Oh, well, when he was younger, he kind of wanted to become a hero, so I thought that maybe I could rekindle that little spark for heroes by taking him someplace where only heroes get to go." Deku, he's just he's sitting, but it might as well be as if the nigga's standing, because he is tall. But, Deku, he then, because, a shot was fired towards Hana. It was Lady Nagat. 'Cause why not? And Deku, he pushed Hana out of the way. And this would have do you guys still anywho, sorry for all the pauses. But Deku, he launches forward. Doesn't care that bullets in his chest, 'cause he is that nigga. He's like rushing. And he
sure, stop a dime.
See ya.
Get the rest of your dirty clothes and pick them down.